Hello everyone, it's Uncle Destiny here with you. Apologize for the delay in getting this one out. It's been busy here. So let's go ahead and see what the spirits have to say for the month of August and what we can be looking forward to and what we need to be able to look at differently for this time period. So let's go and get them in, and I hope everyone is safe and sound. Alrighty, and we have thrown the bones, and now we have our spread. And it's very broad, it's very spread out, as you can see. But the key things here being, this one is work, this one is home, this one is family, society, life. And the 12th, the dice that represents some of the influence here is the 12th house. And this is the house of endings, healings, closure, and spirituality. Again, endings, healing, closure, and spirituality, which is also fitting because of the card we got for the Adinkra, which is an altar of God. And this speaks of the presence of God and of God's protection. Now, why that's important, we're going to start here, is we also have the copper piece next to it and touching it. The copper pieces are also our sense of the energy and connection, and that transfers that energy of the divine energy into us and into our spirits and into our families and into our societies. Now, this is important because of this month of August is going to be about certain endings, and the endings of not necessarily just life, because I know we were still dealing heavily with the issues of the pandemic at the moment, but the issues of endings of ideals that can no longer be supported. And why I say that is that there are hundreds of ideas that are out there in the world, and not all of them can actually exist in reality. They can exist in possibility, but they're not also always possible to exist with the probability and the things as they are. And that is also a struggle that many people are having when confronted with the idea that their ideal of how the world and life is supposed to be is being resisted, is not the probabilities of it are not there to support it. It functions at the exclusion of others. And that sense of, if others didn't exist, then this would work. So, kind of sound familiar? And because of that letting go that needs to happen, because they're struggling with the idea that they're holding on to it tooth and nail, like a life raft in water, even though they could tread and there's a larger raft nearby, they're afraid to let go. And until they can let go, and there are those who are, and those who are working on healing. There has to be closure. And in that healing process is closure. In that healing process is finding spirit greater than the ideal that they held on to. And that is also the aspect with the presence of God and of God's protection. Now, I use God in a very generic term, whatever form you want to put it there. But this is the sense that there's God's presence or Spirit's presence, or the energetic spark that gets the world moving, is in all things. But the way that God, Spirit, the spark will protect us is not up to us. And again, that's one of those aspects of letting go. Because we have to let go and let God use what are the best probable sources to protect us that are at hand, as opposed to spontaneously bringing a unicorn into existence to protect us. No, that's not going to work. And some of you may have heard there's that classic one story about the guy who is in a flood and a truck shows up and basically offers to take him to safety, and he says no. and then the water level raises, and a boat shows up and offers to take him to safety. He says, "No, God." And all this time he's saying, "God will save me." And then he's sitting on the roof, and a helicopter shows up, and he says, "No, no, no, God will save me." Until finally the water levels rises, and he finds himself in heaven. And he goes to God and says, "Why didn't you protect me?" And God says, "I sent you a boat, I sent you a helicopter, I sent you a truck." These were God using all the probable tools that were available and most practical at the time to help you. So this, like I said, God's not always going to send a unicorn to save you. And at this point, dealing with our families, dealing with our greater society, this is about that aspect of letting go of some, being able to have endings and closure so that healing can begin and spirit can be trusted that the path that you're on, the path that is being put forward, is the path of healing. And I'll be frank that also in my work as a therapist, I see a lot of people who cannot let go of things, or we have a struggle of letting go of things because the ideal of what is supposed to be either held on to or what they are supposed to grow into after letting go of their struggles does not match or is impossible to exist in the world. It's not that it's impossible. It's not that it's possible for them to exist. It's impossible because the points of probability that are there to aid them aren't present. So that's also where we're getting this sense of the other bones around it, because if you notice, we also have here the wishbone at the terminal, and so at the terminal end of this section, and there are people who are wishing for so many things and wishing that just cannot happen without great harm. Wishing for things that, essentially put, cannot exist in the probable world that we have right now. Anything is possible, but is it probable? And that's where where we're struggling. That's also something that's got to be let go. That has to have an ending. That has to have closure. That has to have healing. And this is supported by the fact that the shell is turned inward, and we've got the inside of the shell. So this is an internal thing, and letting go of ideals that are no longer working. Letting and healing is something that has to be done first and foremost internally so that it can affect externally. And we've got many bones around this that help it. And that brings us here to the quartz piece. And the fact that several of the pieces that are around it are also the ones related to the spine and the connection system to the brain. And so this is that sense of the crystal holds the memory. It's a lovely little like a photograph that you can turn around and look at from multiple angles. And so we have to look at these angles and these memories and learn how to let go of them so that we can have closure, so that we can heal from them, and so we can have spirit. And it's like that's the question of, since we talk about the presence of God here, in these memories, where is the presence of God? Where is the presence of God's protection? Was it that neighbor who maybe gave you that extra place to go and have refuge and fed you? Was it that friend who always was there to listen to you? Was it that dog that just barked at that right moment to distract that person? All of those are God using what's available and probable to affect change. And it's beginning to see that in the memories and being able to let go so that we can have endings, so we can have closure, so we can have healing. And that is spirit in all things. Over here, we get to the home bone, which we have a couple of more pieces, a couple of support ones, and especially this one here, which is part of the tailbone, which is about balance. And it is all about our balance, keeping our homes balanced as much as possible. For many of us, we are now working a lot from home, which means that the balance about what our home was and is shifting. And we're also finding, as we have gone on, more of a balance with it, of being able to set times, of set barriers, of set the place that we are using as our home office, so to speak. And that's a continual process. And again, that idea that we always have to go back to the office is something that part of these ideals that are time to let go of. And then we bring ourselves up here to work. Now, our bone over here is also one of the spinal and work. There is the aspect of our work requires our intelligence and our rationale, not just our emotional. And again, as I've said before, work is not just what we do to pay the bills and keep the roof over our heads. It's also the work that we are here to do for the greater aspect and development of our soul. So is that being a healer? Is that being a cheerleader? Is that being a witness? Is that being someone on the front lines working for change? Those are all of our greater sense of work in making the world better, in showing that the constant evolution of ideas can grow. We're still holding on to ideas that are not for this time in this world, and don't even support the idea of spiritual growth. So our work here is about that evolution and being smart about our evolution, not just emotional about our evolution. Now, as often the case, we've got some bones out here at the edge, and we've definitely got a inspiration and support and breath that is coming in from this way, and it's going to come here and land between our work and our home and try again. That's going to be part of breathing inspiration into these two places. But as often the case, we have the broken rib bone here, and actually both of them right next to each other. And this is the aspect of that sharp point that hurts, but also that point that can be used to help crutch and support us like a cane. I'm going to suggest that some of the things that are going to be happening next are going to be very much focused towards those heading towards the golden years of their lives, even more so, and it's being very conscious about those. And again, because we've got some of the spinal and some balance bones, we've got to be very conscious about what this actually means. What is actually, not just what's being said, but what is actually being done, because this is all about the actions. So for those, to be on the watch for those of you you're friends with or your family members who are older, watch out for them. But keep in mind what happened and what is happening to them is something that we need to be conscious of, about what's the balance, what's the spirit in it, what is bringing about endings, what is bringing about closure, what is bringing about healing. But there's going to be difficulty in that zone. So that's what we've got here. On behalf of the ancestor spirits, Orishas, Loas, and God, be safe. Be wise and love. Ashe.